Paul reminds the Colossians in the midst of their heresy and paganism, just as he reminds us struggling with similar temptations in verse 14, that above all, clothe yourself in love. Above all means before you go out and apply scripture to somebody else, clothe yourself in love. Before you embrace an exclusive faith that's only appealing to certain folk, clothe yourself in love. Before you ignorantly believe that you are a chosen people, you have granted you some measure of superiority over everybody else, clothe yourself in love. Last week our focus, that fourth Sunday of Advent, our focus was on love. And when we talk about love, I'm not talking about some surrogate sentimentality where one is shot by one of Cupid's arrows and succumbs to a blinding bliss. Love is a tough determination to see value in people regardless of how we feel about them personally. See, the common mistake that's made too often is the interchange between like and love. We see them as synonymous. According to the teachings of Jesus, liking someone is optional. Love is a requirement. I've told you 1,000 times, I'll tell you again, I don't believe Martin Luther King liked Bull Connor. Didn't like it. I wouldn't like him to turn the dogs only into fire hoses, but he understood that his humanity was inextricably linked to Bull Connors, whether he liked it or not, so he had to affirm his humanity. Like is optional. Love is a requirement. It is foundational to the faith. Love affirms the humanity of others in a way that transcends whether or not one likes the individual. Tension lies in a love that offers liberation and transformation versus the natural impulses of the human condition that offers at best pedestrian possibilities that too often accentuate the worst in us. But again, this is not a text that should be viewed from the sidelines, arrogantly critiquing how the Colossians got it wrong, but somehow, through our vast superior knowledge, we get it right today. Their struggles then are our struggles now. Ask yourself this morning, right? Ask yourself, why did you come to church this morning? Did you come for renewal or tradition? Did you come for change or for status quo? Did you come to be revived or just have your present condition justified? See, this tension is what the late psychologist Abraham Maslow defined as a growth choice versus a fear choice. Too often it is the false illusion of safety that compels us to make a fear choice that leaves us languishing in a spiritual arrested development. So when Jesus says, love your enemies, if you really unpack that text, when Jesus says love your enemies, what he's really saying, he's challenging us to love ourselves first. Is it not the enemy within that makes forgiveness so difficult, transformation grim, and the ability to clothe ourselves with love feels somehow insurmountable? Then it begs the question, do we trust it? Do we trust God enough to clothe ourselves in love? That's the underlying question this text poses. I know clothe ourselves in love, but do we trust God enough to clothe ourselves in love? Do we trust God enough to be authentic? Do we trust God enough to be vulnerable? Do we possess the courage to allow Jesus' inconvenient love to flood our soul? See, love is not weak, effeminate, passive, or ineffective. It is transforming, redeeming, strong, and most of all, as you all already know, it's inconvenient. The irony of the faith, because we really rule it down, our faith only has one rule, one regulation, which is to love. And because of that, there's a greater tendency to misapply other rules on somebody else. See, it's easy to locate a scripture to justify our insecurities, our pettiness, and our personal dislikes than it is to love. It is easier to hold to our past as a justification not to love. It is easier to sidestep Calvary as a feeble attempt to experience resurrection than it is to engage in inconvenient love. There is a severity to love that does not let us down. In fact, love is the one thing that will always pull us up. I have never heard anyone ever say, I am a worse person for engaging in love. I'm worse for it. It may hurt you. It may let you down. But are you worse for it? It is a love that bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Inconvenient love is the unpredictable route that takes us through the difficult and sometimes painful human adventure. Because it is in loving that we find life's deepest meaning. A meaning that allows us to face life's deepest tragedies courageously, embrace our shortcomings faithfully, and to live authentically. In lieu of accepting the challenge to love, we dumb down the faith by suggesting that God will protect our job, even though there's 13 million people that are looking for work right now, and somehow God was either unable or unwilling to protect them. We believe that we can pray in such a way that God will provide a hedge of protection over our family and our best friends so that suffering never passes over our house. We believe that God will entertain our narcissistic endeavors to lose weight, to look like we're 30. Except for those in the back. But I think you've all lived long enough to know it's more complicated than that. See, rather than clothe ourselves with love, which, as Paul says, binds everything together in perfect harmony, we seek to take love out of the equation. Because that's easier. I get it. We seek to wrap Jesus up in a suffocating shroud of orthodoxy. We want to lay Jesus in a cold tomb of irrelevance. We want to make Jesus a lifetime member of the NRA who sides with the 1%, justifying war, disregarding poverty. We want to nail him to the nation, rivet him to the race, genuflecting the gender, chain him to the church, sold him to the sanctuary, paste him the popular culture, grind him into government, mold him in mythology, placing him out of the fight for justice, out of the fight for freedom, out of the fight for equality. Without love, revenge is normative, grudges are acceptable, and resentment is tolerable. When we take love away, what we have is a Jesus with no power to redeem, no power to forgive, no power to transform. There can be no remission of sin. There can be no second chances. And that's just how I am, what can then be an acceptable theological response for validating our shortcomings. Why is love above all? It encompasses everything that Paul writes about in this morning's text. It binds together in perfect harmony. It allows us to forgive. We're not depressed about yesterday. We're not anxious about tomorrow because we're living in peace right now. Above all, love is patient, love is kind, love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It's not irritable or resentful. It's not worried about taking a leisure of petty nonsense. It's not interested in starting stuff for stuff's sake. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in truth. It is the road to resurrection, the gateway to grace, the foundation of our faith. Evil can't defeat love. Change can't alter love. Light can't illuminate love. Geographers can't locate love. Architects can't lay the foundation for love. Voters can't vote on love. Ice can't freeze love. Water can't drown love. Fire can't burn love. And death can't overcome love. Love is the greatest good. It can make the bitter sweet but in God. So when we have love, we have God. Is this not what James Rowe was getting at when he penned the words, when I was sinking deep in sin, far from peaceful shore, very deeply stained within, sinking to rise no more, but the master of the sea heard my despairing cry. From the waters lifted me, now safe am I. Love lifted me. Love lifted me. But above all, just today, I'm not going to even go for going to the new year. I'm not going to try to set y'all up for something I know y'all ain't going to do. But just today, so that means you may not want to watch the game today. Just today, clothe yourself in love. Just today, let the peace of Christ rule in your heart. Just today. And then we can start dealing with the new year and all that good stuff. Have a great week, Resurrection.
Above all, we are the chosen, but we're also the chosen people who are called to be compassionate, kind, have patience, gentle, and have humility. Because when we do that, we're putting on love. We're supposed to be inclusive, not exclusive. Above